Welcome to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. I have the pleasure every Monday through Friday at 6 o'clock of bringing you interviews with fascinating people. And I've twice before had the opportunity to interview Carmella Ray, who is a professional matchmaker and an expert on online dating. We did one show on Valentine's Day or about Valentine's Day, and we did another show just on sort of dating and online social dating, etc. And I thought, you know what, given COVID-19 and coronavirus and self-isolation and social distancing or physical distancing and everyone at home, I thought I'd check in with Carmella to find out what are singles doing and what suggestions do you have? Because you know what, a lot of people are alone and maybe they're, I don't know, on social dating sites, and are they checking out potential dates, and are they having, instead of coffee dates, Zoom dates or Skype dates or FaceTime dates, and what's going on? So Carmella Ray, welcome to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour.
Thanks, Brian. It's always a pleasure to be on your show, and this time being across from each other. And I have to say, this, Brian, is the new normal for people. It's the new normal for families even that, you know, can't be together because of social distancing. Oh. And I'm going to refer to social distancing from here on in as physical distancing because, you know, I'm not for social distancing because look, we're still able to connect. Yep. But physical distancing, yes, we have to practice that, which makes it really challenging and interesting for singles right now as they date or consider dating. And in fact, most of the stats are showing that online dating is on the rise. That actually online dating is on the rise, and so many dating apps right now are sharing that there are conversations are tripled or doubled. The number of exchanges on their platform between people has increased. Really? The amounts of time that people have mentioned toilet paper and COVID-19 has been like through the roof. I think it was, oh gosh, I have to find my stats now. I think it was Coffee Meat Bagel that said, I don't know, 400 times the word toilet paper came up in a conversation amongst 5,000 singles surveyed or whatever. So yeah, I mean, people are definitely seeking connection right now, but they're also challenged with kind of trying to figure out, how do I do this dating thing? And this right here, Brian, this is like a first date for some people right now. This is going to be how they meet.
Recommending to people that they have a first date via Skype or via FaceTime or via Zoom?
Oh, for sure. For those people who, you know, for some people, like some people aren't texters, right? And the whole point of online dating, first of all, as a matchmaker and an online dating expert, the point of the platform is not to keep you there. The point of the platform is for you to get off the platform and meet in real life.
Right.
But now, because you can't meet in real life, you still want that connection, that distinction from this, you know, swiping on the phone to, I want to authenticate. I want to build a deeper bond. I want to go off this dating site and engage in conversation. So it might look like a phone conversation, but usually in the phone conversation, you're making plans to meet at a coffee shop, dinner, a walk, whatever activity, right? In real life. So now it's going to be like, okay, Brian, what's your Zoom room number and what's your Skype ID? And this is going to be how we're going to meet for the first time.
People might actually be getting to know one another on a deeper level.
Oh, 100%. I'm not sure if you know of all the buzz about the Netflix show called Love is Blind. Have you heard about that show?
I don't know anything about it.
Okay. So for some of your listeners, I'll fill you in. So Love is Blind was one of the most popular, it was the #1 trending show on Netflix for the past, 4 to 8 weeks. We're talking #1 show above every single show that's out there in all the different categories. Love is Blind was a romantic dating show where we had singles dating in pods. So it was the ultimate blind date. So Brian, close your eyes, just appease me for a minute. Close your eyes right now.
Okay.
You and I I'm closing my eyes, and literally we're dating, and I'm only getting to know you through asking you questions. And there's 15 singles, 15 men, 15 women. And you can open your eyes now. But at the end of that, 5 couples ended up proposing to someone that they blind dated based on the connection that they had from these dating pods. So they had to.
That's so interesting, because the thing about so many of these dating sites, isn't it, that it's all about physical attractionness and swipe right, swipe left.
Exactly. So this was Netflix's biggest romantic experiment, which tested the question: is love really blind? I'm not going to give the giveaway, but I mean, oh my God, there's spoiler alerts everywhere. But let's just say that there were couples that got married and that are still married today because of this experiment, proving that in some cases love is blind. And in the other cases where they met in real life, the other factors heavily played in, like the physicality, the age differences, the economic and social statuses, all of those things come into play, because love wasn't blind at that point. It was like transparent, right?
Okay, so in this test,
yes.
Did they know the differences in age?
They were able to get to know. They knew that because through the questioning. So how old are you? What do you do? How tall are you? Where did you grow up? So let's just say that, like right now, dating in the time of COVID, dating during a pandemic, yes, you're going to ask better questions, and you're going to ask more questions because you have nothing else to do. You can't meet up. You physically can't meet up. So what you're left with is conversation. I'm not even going to say forced, but that's all you can do really, is have conversation.
Okay, well, we're going to take a break and come back with Carmella Ray, the professional matchmaker and online dating expert, with more on what to do if you're interested in dating during your self-isolation. Stay with us. Well, welcome back to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. We're chatting tonight with Carmella Ray, a professional matchmaker and a online dating expert and coach. And we're talking about dating during a pandemic, dating during social isolation and physical separation. And is there anything such as a date? And so what, Carmella, you're telling me is that there is, and they're doing it the same way we're having this conversation. They're doing it via FaceTime and via Zoom and via Skype.
Yes. So I am now preparing and coaching clients to date virtually. And for many clients, it's already nerve-wracking to meet up in person. But you know what I've discovered? So many people don't like their voice. They don't like the voice when they hear it, and they hate the video. They really just can't stand video. This is to be new for you too, Brian. You're normally not looking at yourself when you're interviewing guests. What's that like for you?
No, I'm not, because I'm on the radio. And so the majority of my conversations are obviously just verbal, but I do a fair amount of teleconferencing and Zoom conferencing in business. And
yes.
So that's quite typical. And most of my business meetings in the past have been in person and or via video conference. And actually, I think I told you I was doing a thesis. Actually, you may remember I was on stage with you at one session where I was talking about a summary of my thesis. And interesting enough, all of my interviews for my thesis, I did over 50 interviews of different people for my thesis, were all video. And because you capture so much more when you actually get to see body language.
Right. But, and Brian, let me ask you though, when you've interviewed people, and I've interviewed quite a few people, and obviously I had my television show for 4 seasons. It was still nerve-wracking for people, for the moms that were on my show, the singles that were on my show with a camera in their face. They couldn't stop looking at the camera, or they just couldn't be really natural. So I think this is the time right now, Brian, that on top of the nervousness of you meeting a person for the very first time on a virtual date, people are worried about how they look. So some of my advice, of course,
don't you worry about how you look when you're in real life?
You do. You certainly
that you teach people how to dress and how to.
Yes, you absolutely do. But
stuff.
Preparation is key. Like, obviously, because I knew you. I didn't look like this half an hour ago. Okay,
so you got dressed up for our interview. Fantastic.
I got dressed up for the interview. I ended up out of my PJs and into a shirt. I'm still wearing my tights underneath and my my running shoes in the house because I'm running around. But
Okay, so I have to admit I'm wearing jeans and a jacket.
oh, there you go. You see, like I'm prepared for the top half. That being said, the other part is, if you've noticed, I actually have a professional light because I do. And what's important is it's dark right now. So we're doing this at 9:00, but a little bit of a tip for anybody who's setting up a virtual date. Please, please, please. There's nothing more annoying and challenging and difficult when you're speed dating, when you're dating somebody and you cannot see their
So you're
face.
telling me I'm going to have to get a professional light.
And it's really dark. No, I can see you though. I can see you. There's a difference. You look fine. It's when there's no light or bad lighting. So I do have a light. Now, people don't need
telling people, I presume, therefore, when you go on a virtual date, one of the things you need to do is be prepared from an appearance standpoint.
Correct.
Just like you would on a regular date. The only difference being you only have to prepare the top half.
Yes, you'll prepare the top half, 100%. And I would advise, they don't need to know if you're in your underwear, but make sure that you are fully dressed from the top half. And that being said, if you do decide to do something more interactive, and I mean, I really could stand up if I needed to.
Just hold on a second, okay?
Yeah.
Welcome back to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. We're chatting with Carmella Ray. And we just got interrupted. I apologize, but we were talking about getting ready for a online date. So how would you advise clients to get ready for an online date?
Oh yes, where we left off was the lighting, right? So if you position your place, right now we're dating at night, or you and I are on this podcast at night. So it was very important that we had lighting. So behind my computer, and by the way, I happen to be on a MacBook computer, and I am using a Logitech camera, which is attached to the computer. However, a lot of computers have front-facing cameras. Do you have a front-facing camera on your computer, Brian?
Yeah, my camera is far worse than yours, so obviously.
Yeah, so I mean, depending on the quality, you don't have to be out of pocket. And frankly, I don't know if you can go to a store tomorrow and buy something. So only non-essential things, or only essential stores are open. That being said, front camera computer, good lighting. If you're dating in the daytime, which is feasible, or before sundown or after sunrise, just position your computer or place where there's open lighting. So good window, because it's so important that you see your face. I do lots of Zoom calls. And Brian, sometimes when I have 7 or 8 people on a Zoom call, I sometimes see some black tiles. I can hardly see the person that I'm speaking to. So you're not able to see their expression. It feels a little dark. So I would just really set that mood. The other thing that's important, if you're preparing for that date, I mean, during the break, I grabbed myself a drink. Brian, do you have your drink?
I do.
So we can toast. Let's cheers. Thank you for having me. So we frankly can practice the same etiquette and courtesy that you would on a date,
right?
Whether we have a meal together. I wouldn't say to do that on the first date, although it could be very interesting to cook your favorite recipe, whatever you really feel comfortable with. So make sure that you are ready. Like you've got your water, your drink, you've gone to the bathroom, all of those things, so that you can spend most of the time on the date.
On the person, right?
Absolutely. And of course, be prepared and ready. The thing that I caution people is you're home, but treat this date as if the same effort as if you were getting ready to go out. Right. So guys, you're not going to show up in your, ugly t-shirt or, slacks that you're just kicking around at home, because that's not how you would show up on a date. So knowing that I was going to see Brian today, as I mentioned, I look different than I did 30 minutes ago. It didn't take me long to put myself together, but I still put myself together. So I think it's important that you give that person the respect of a good first impression, and you made some effort to show up thinking about the color that you're wearing. I'm wearing red. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, the color red does invoke love. I'm a matchmaker, so red is always my color of choice. So think about the things that you're going to be dressing with.
I'm dressed in blue. What does that mean?
I mean, it's a nice color, and blue is royal and regal, and it's a very nice color. So showing up in black or all white, not so colorful. Again, dress to your taste, but use those things to help out. And if you noticed, for myself, like if I'm a mom or I've got kids at home, I got to make sure my background is tidy so it doesn't distract from our date. Like Brian is in his library, so that's interesting. I can ask about his books. You know, he's in his office setting or his den. I've been to his home. Whereas me, I'm just sitting in my living room, right? So if the kids' toys, just make sure we can, because especially, I don't know that anybody's gonna do a Zoom in their bathroom, but you know, Brian, I see so many dates, so many profiles online. They literally are taking selfies, you know, in the bathroom, and their underwear and bras are laced over, and the dirty towels are on the floor. And I'm telling you, nobody wants to date that person, right? So the same rules apply. And so I think a nice, comfortable setting where, look, you can see me. I'm in good perspective. I'm not cut off. I've been on Zooms where, you know, the person's over here or they're over here, or they're not well positioned. All of those things detract from the date. So just really make sure that you do that, and smile, you know, posture, all of those things matter. So make sure that you're doing that as well. Very quickly, in terms of technology, I'm on my computer, but so many people, they just date on their phone. So this little gadget here is like a tripod, and you know, it's always nice when your hands are free. So if I wanted to put this on my table or set this up somewhere, that way I can keep my hands free. The last thing you want to do is date like this, and you know, it's all over the place. So even if you can just put your camera and rest it somewhere so that you can use your hands for conversation and for drinking or whatever. Makes sense. Again, little tiny tips.
Yeah. Okay, good. What about questions? You gave me a list once about all the sort of appropriate questions to ask on a first date. What are the appropriate questions to ask on a first virtual date? Same ones?
You would do the same thing on a virtual date. And I would really be mindful too, because guess what? A topic of conversation that you can both really bond in, which is going to come up, is how are you doing in isolation, right? Like how are you doing in isolation? How are you spending your time? You're obviously going to talk about COVID a little bit, because who's not going to talk about that? So just be careful that your conversation is light, and you don't go down the really dark road of feeding into the panic and worry and frenzy of what's going on, because it's already there. You don't want this date to be, oh my God, another human being that I can just throw all my worries on. They're going to be leaving stressed, like more stressed than ever. So try to use this opportunity to talk about positive things, about what you're going to do once this COVID is gone, and not the state of disarray and panic that you actually feel. Even if you feel that way, just take the topic off something really deep and talk about, you know, activities that you're doing. Play a game. You can even play cards with somebody
Seriously?
online. Yeah, you can play cards for sure.
Okay.
You can play games. You can play Jeopardy. There's all kinds of things that you can do. I painted. I don't have it on here. My girlfriend Kimberly did a paint class, a virtual paint class. So she literally did a paint instruction, and I ran out to the dollar store to grab all the stuff. And then my daughter and I, we did a paint date. So you could do that. You could do a paint date.
Now, one of the suggestions that you had made at one point in time was, you know, have the first date be a coffee or a drink, not a dinner, so that you could leave if things weren't working out.
Well,
how do you like schedule the virtual date that way?
Brian, very, very good.
For half an hour or something like that?
Yeah, very good point. And by the way, at any point in time, this works both ways. Here's the thing to be mindful of. If you get out of hand or I don't like you, there's a button here and it says leave meeting, right? So I can leave this meeting at any time, and I can also stop my video, right? If I need to excuse myself or go to the bathroom or some commotion's going on, I can also mute myself. So another important thing to consider, ladies and gentlemen, when you're using technology, is to know the platform that you're on, so that it's a little bit comfortable for you. And and like, Brian, this is not my first Zoom meeting, likely not your first Zoom, but I'll show you something. Because I know Zoom really well, I can actually even change my background, right?
Cool.
I'm now at the beach.
How'd you do that?
I changed my background. It's a virtual background, or I can be here, or let's get romantic and let me tell you your horoscope right now, right? So like, and here, there's me in the background. So there are so many things that you can do with technology to make it really fun.
Figure out how to do that.
Yeah, I will teach you. So that's something that you can do. I can also, by the way, share my screen. So when you share a screen, we can Netflix and chill. Like I could literally watch a YouTube channel or play a board game. So there are a lot of things that you can do here, do a recipe together. So I don't think that dating should actually stop. I think we should encourage more dating, because someone like myself, and Brian, you know, if it were not isolation, I literally wouldn't be home. Like I'm doing events, or I'm planning things, or meeting up with clients. So this has been a very a period of adjustment for me as an entrepreneur,
Sure.
and as a person that really craves connection. I'm just having to do my best with going online.
Well, excellent suggestions on first dates. What we're going to do is we're going to take a break for some messages, and we're going to come back with more with Carmella Ray. And I'm going to ask you about things we shouldn't be doing on a first date. So,
okay. Perfect.
Well, welcome back to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour in Saga 960. We're chatting tonight with Carmella Ray. I thought that it would be kind of interesting to talk about dating in the time of coronavirus and COVID-19 and social isolation and self-isolation and social distancing, etc. And so far, we've talked about getting ready for a first virtual online date. And one of the questions, like Carmella, did people change their dating profile? Do people change the way they ask out for a first date? Like it's sort of uncharted territory, isn't it?
Yeah, interesting question. I am getting more inquiries now, Brian, of people asking me to check out their dating profile because they're reactivating old profiles, and new people are getting online because, as I said, what else are they going to do? There's no bars or restaurants or anything open. So what you have to be mindful of course, and one of my big rules of thumb is that make sure that the photo that you're posting is within 6 months. That's 6 months fresh, not 6 months old. In fact, I like my clients to take photos that they would have taken within the last 30 days or at least 3 months, right? Okay. There's nothing to stop someone from taking a camera, taking a fresh photo. So the last thing you want to do is shock somebody. Even, by the way, if you take a photo, if you're posting a photo of yourself and then you get on video, they can still have the same reactions. Like,
who's that?
Who's that? Exactly. Right. So you don't want to have such a big discrepancy if you've lost weight, gained weight, changed your hair color, cut your hair, whatever, did something different to your style. So make sure that it's accurate.
Okay.
The other thing that's important to note is, are you practicing isolation, right? Like some people are actually in quarantine. I mean, as I said, a lot of the apps are stating that people are being very transparent about their experience. Like they're home alone, or they're looking for their quarantine bae, or they're looking for their isolation partner, whatever that looks like. Just keep things very positive. We already are so consumed with a lot of fear, a lot of worry. So it's nice when you can read someone's profile and it's inspiring and uplifting. I'm not saying to sugarcoat it and ignore the fact that there's real concern, but I think that's obvious, right? I think that that's totally obvious. So for example, I had a recent client and I read her profile and she asked me to rewrite it. And one of the things on her profile, it said, I am not looking for a relationship of any kind. I am not looking for a commitment of any kind, blah, blah, blah. And this is, I was like, okay, is that what you really, like, are you looking for a hookup? She's like, no, I'm not looking for a hookup. And I said, she goes, I wrote that a year ago, just when I just was going through my separation. So at that moment, I didn't want a commitment of any kind, and I didn't want anything serious. And I said, I get that that's what you wanted, but you haven't fixed this from a year ago. And secondly, if a man is reading, you don't want a commitment or anything serious, that means a hookup. And she didn't realize that that's actually what it meant. I didn't mean that. I just meant I want to take things slowly. Okay, then say that. Say you want to take things slowly, right? Because people are very literal.
Okay, so how does someone ask you for an online virtual date? Is it the same as asking them for a coffee date?
Very similar. Yes. So, hey, what's a really good thing is you can use the excuse or reasoning that, I'm really just interested in making a virtual connection with somebody, not a pen pal. So how would you feel about meeting up on Skype? Or, hey, are you comfortable with Zoom? Are you comfortable with Skype? Are you up for a video chat? Are you up for meeting, virtually? So yes, those are the things that you want to say to people. And you may want to make that clear even in your bio. By the way, my meeting ID is, or my Zoom ID is, or my Instagram handle is. A lot of people are deferring also to their social profile, or they'll say right in their bio, add me on WhatsApp. And they'll actually add their name or number on WhatsApp.
Oh, really?
So, you can add somebody on Skype. By the way, just a tip. If someone wants to keep a certain level of anonymity, you can give your Skype ID without giving away your real name, so that at least if you create a Skype account that's exclusive for dating, that's not your real name,
it can be
then at least, sorry?
You can have an alias effectively.
Yeah, you can have an alias for sure. And I think I think we're okay right now, but of course for people that are nervous, or maybe they had a past experience where it wasn't a pleasant meeting, because on the darker side of dating, there is stalking, there is concerns about safety, there is concerns about identity theft. So you want to still be mindful of who you're sharing information with. So it's really important that you authenticate or get to a video date sooner than later, because guess what? There's going to be a lot of also bored people at home that are ready to waste your time. So this is why you've got to have a qualifier and date with purpose instead of just
think about a virtual date via video. It's going to be far better than just a texting relationship, isn't it?
Oh my goodness, yes. And by the way, video dating,
what type of drink they drink.
Yeah. Video dating, by the way, is still the end, kind of like the end stage. So for example, if you want to date in stages, it starts with expressing interest, texting on the app, then maybe it's exchanging phone numbers or exchanging emails, and then maybe it's WhatsApp, and then maybe it's video date. And for some people, it's right to, hey, you're interested? Let's Skype. I think now is a time that is so risk-free dating more than ever, because now you can video date and you can kind of check the merchandise before you meet in real life, because now, I mean, video is as close as we get. Brian, how do you feel about video dating? Well, I'm not saying video dating, but how do you feel about interviewees? You've had the chance to meet me in person and you meet me physically, but don't you feel like video is probably the closest thing you're going to get before you meet someone?
Yeah, so I actually have done a couple of interviews with people on video, and I interviewed the CEO of Vimeo, which is a
oh, amazing! You did? When was that?
A couple of months ago in the fall, and it was fascinating.
Okay.
But what she was interesting, because she said that 15% of internet traffic today is video, and she thinks it's going to be 85% in a couple of years. And
that's so remarkably low, right? Yeah. Like 15% is so low.
She thought it would go to 85%. And she said that people were sending out video resumes, that people were, sending out video emails. And so that more and more of our communication, and she used the example of facial, expression that texts just don't satisfy. And the fact that so many people are including emoticons in their text as an example of we want to, we desire to express emotion somehow, such that we do it even with little stupid figures in texting. And
you know what, emoticons, here's something I learned. Emotopedia. there is an encyclopedia for emoticons that you can express yourself. My business partner taught me that. So like, this is how millennials communicate, frankly.
Yeah.
And, it emphasizes a statement, like it just adds emotion.
Yeah.
It does exactly what it is. It's an emotion.
But she was saying that 95% of French teens are on something called TikTok, which is video. And so her point was that video is what's going to come, and it's going to be as relevant as email is today. And she said that email in the future will be like today's fax machine. That the only things you get by email are going to be junk stuff. Just like I don't know if you still have a fax machine. I still have a fax machine. The only stuff that comes in by fax is advertisements, which is crazy. So I don't even know why I bother having it. But that was her comment. She said, people will respond to a text. They won't respond to an email right away because so much junk comes in by way of email. And then in the future, what they'll respond to is video, because video, they can assess whether they actually believe the trustability of the person that's sending the message.
Yeah, and video is consumed even from advertising. And of course, I'm an entrepreneur and business owner, as are you. And fellow entrepreneurs and fellow business owners have been told, if you really want to communicate to your audience, you are going to do so by video. At least if you want more attention, more eyeballs. And by the way, that video is got to be 15 seconds or 30 seconds. It's got to like grab attention right away, because that's what people are, millennials and even Generation Z, they're all doing it by video. So this is a great time to practice. So for singles out there who are not ready to date by video, I feel like you will feel the impact of that, and you will miss out on certain opportunities because people expect you to be video ready. I mean, that's where we're going.
And you told me that you had done some consulting, some work on long distance relationships. I presume long distance relationships are using video all the time.
Yes, long distance relationships are used to video. There's also apps that are used for getting to know your partner. I'm not sure if Paired still exists, but Paired is one of those apps where, these are partner-based apps. So Brian, you and I can spend the day getting to know each other. You talk about what questions are there. Maybe you don't even know. I'll do something simple like your partner's favorite recipe or their favorite vacation or their mother's maiden name. Like, who knows? There's so many different questions, like hundreds and hundreds of questions that you could ask your partner, that when you're long distance, all you can do is communicate. And communication is always going to be the key to keeping that spark alive and showing interest, right? Particularly when there isn't that physical connection. You can still sleep with your partner, meaning, side by side with the video.
With the video
you can wake. You can wake up.
What you were going to say.
Sorry?
I was wondering what you were.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know what? I bought for Christmas my parents the Amazon Echo, and it's a little. It's kind of like Google Chrome, but it's a little computer type window screen that is just a video, so that if I say on my phone, "Hey, check in on my mom," it goes right to my mother's living room. And it opens. Now, it's going to give her notice that Carmella wants to chat with you, so she's not like cooking naked or something like that. But I mean, we have the technology to stay informed and stay connected. So for long distance relationships, the key is really in checking in with your partner and also finding out what are their expectations for communication. Because Brian, my love language is quality time. And my partner's love language is words of affirmation. So for me, it's really important that I spend time with my partner. And for him, it's really important that he just hears how great he is, or that I love you, or those words. So for people who are dating long distance, someone might need or require more in terms of assurance or physical viewing time or conversation versus someone else who could go weeks or days without checking in. So it's just really important that you match each other's expectations. Sorry, you were saying?
Just as long as you tell them they're a nice guy and that you still love them. The words
for some people, yeah, it's like words of affirmation. Me, you don't have to say anything to me. You just have to like make my coffee, rub my feet, like all those things.
We're chatting with Carmella Ray. We're going to take a break for some messages and come back for a last couple of minutes. Stay with us. So we're back with Carmella Ray, the dating expert, the online dating expert and the professional matchmaker, and we're talking about dating in the era of social isolation and COVID-19, and talking about what to do. And she's been giving some great advice as to what to do. And I tried to get out from her what not to do, but she doesn't want to go there, so we won't go there. But what about if people actually want to meet? Carmella, what do you think?
It's interesting because I am part of a much larger matchmaking community where I'm in regular contact with hundreds of matchmakers, and we have our own private Facebook groups and forums. And some of our matchmakers who are having clients that insist on meeting people and still want to are making those introductions, but they are honoring the 6 foot body space away from that date, and they're planning walks. They're planning hikes. They're actually planning coffee. Well, very few places have coffee, but whether it's thermos in a mug or a picnic, where they literally are in the same space, but they're respecting the distance. They are not touching. They are not, exchanging handshakes or hugs, and they're definitely not sneezing or coughing on each other, right, Brian?
Yeah, you're not kissing.
No, oh gosh, no kissing. So yeah, if you really want to do that, you can go for walks, right? And you want to be mindful of other people.
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
I don't know what the rule would be, but I was interested. The head of public health for Ontario was speaking today about exactly this topic, and he was asked why we have a limit in Ontario of groups not greater than 50 versus other places that have got
I think that's an enormous number of people,
yeah,
actually.
But other places have a limit of not greater than 5 or not greater than 10. And he said it's not the number of people, it's the distance between the people that counts. He says if you had a funeral, if you had a church service, if you had something like that where everyone was truly 6 feet away from each other, 2 meters away from each other, it wouldn't matter whether there were 5, 10, or 50. But he said the problem is, what ends up happening is it gets a bigger group, people end up crowding together. But
yes.
And the reason why is that coughs or sneezes travel, and they travel a certain distance, and obviously the chance for catching the infection goes up. And so I think that you're probably right that if someone's going to go for a stroll, and one of the things that lots of people have talked about is we still got to get out, enjoy nature.
Yes.
We should be getting out and enjoying nature in a crowd. We shouldn't be holding hands. We shouldn't be, walking and chatting very closely with people, but we still should be getting out. And just in my own neighborhood on the weekend, I went for a walk and I saw lots of people out for walks. It was interesting though, people that would have stopped and chatted are waving across the street. And people were walking by on sidewalks with a good distance between everyone. And so I guess my comment to you would be, sure, get together for a stroll, but make sure that you really do honor the 6 feet apart, and do it, number one for yourself, but then more importantly, do it because you might come back and meet your parents or meet grandma or whatever. And that's who you do not want to transfer.
Yes. So earlier, if you I'll just share because Boris Johnson from who mentioned the UK lockdown did say that same thing with Doug Ford, basically stay home. The only reason that you should be out, he did say that if you're with your family or you want to exercise for an hour, because of course it's still important to get your exercise, but literally the only reason is to get the essential things you need and to go out for exercise, making sure you keep that safe distance, 6 meters, or was it whatever? It's not 6 meters, is it? It's
2 meters, 6 feet.
Oh, 6 feet, 2 meters apart, or with your family exercising, because we all need that, and fresh air, that would be the only reason to do that. So if you're going to do that, and of course for pet lovers and for people who do need to walk their animals, and maybe you have a fellow dog lover, perfect opportunity to say, we'll meet here, 6 feet apart, and be able to date. And I think there's a lot of excitement that can build up when this is over. I got to tell you, Brian, there are a lot of singles that have are waiting for this isolation to lift because they cannot wait to get really close to the person that they've gotten to know. And it's kind of borrowing off the popularity of Love is Blind, where these singles made very, very strong emotional, spiritual, and mental connection with a partner. And when they finally met and they finally were able to kiss and touch, it just made that experience so much more rich and passionate. And it was just almost taboo. They couldn't take their hands off each other.
Well, physical attraction is important. You've got to have that connection with people. And the connection is with, communication, and whether you can have a conversation, because you just can't look at someone forever. You've got to actually have a conversation and get to know them and like them.
Yeah, so those are definitely the cons for dating, and what it's teaching singles today right now is to become better communicators, to be better at asking great questions, to be curious about what's going on for someone else, and to take the focus off ourselves for a bit and seeing how we can be of help to others. So I strongly do encourage socializing, getting to know people, communicating, dating, perfecting your profile, whatever you need. I'm here to support you.
So if they want some help from you, how do they contact you, Carmella?
You go to carmellaray.com or my Instagram, which is @CarmellaRay. Basically, Google me, Carmella Ray, or my website, and you can find me. And I'm also hosting live webinars and training in today's very challenging time of trying to connect people. So yeah, thank you so much for having me. And
thanks for chatting. We're going to take a final break, and I'm going to come back with a couple of final concluding comments. Stay with us. Okay. So welcome back to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. We've had, I think, an interesting chat with Carmella Ray, of the matchmaker, professional matchmaker, and the online dating expert, about dating in the era of COVID-19 and social isolation. And I think the key of what Carmella had to say is that it's physical distance, not social distance. And that's so critically important. We are social animals. We need to interact. We want to interact, whether it's dating or whether it's just chatting with people from your business standpoint or your friend group. And I think that social interaction is so critically important. We have to have it. We just can't do it face to face in real life within 6 feet anymore. What we got to do is we got to have some physical distance, 6 feet, 2 meters between us. And so I think that Zoom or Skype or FaceTime or Instagram or Facebook or whatever it is that you're using are great vehicles for doing that. And it doesn't need to stop dating. Doesn't need to stop marriages, doesn't need to stop meetings at business, doesn't need to stop chatting with your friends. And actually, I'll leave you with the one thing that my own family did, which was interesting, is my mother is a very social animal. She's 88 years old. She goes to church every week. She plays bridge a couple times a week. The whole family has got together to have a schedule of calling her on FaceTime so that we can keep her socially interacted and involved when we know that she's missing out big time on the social interaction, critically important. And so this is important, not just for people that Carmella is guiding in the dating scene, but it's also important for me in business, and it's important for my mom to replace her bridge activities. So Carmella Ray, thanks for joining us tonight.
Thanks, Brian. I'm always glad to spend time with you.
Thanks. Good night, everybody.